Hey guys, welcome back. It's snowing outside here, which means it's cold. When I think of cold, I actually think about, a time when I was 6 years old. I was in grade 1. I remember I was on my way to the bus. It was after school. I was late actually getting on the bus. That sounds like me if you knew me as a kid. By the time I got there though, I was just at the back of the bus and the bus drove away. I was 6 years old. I was about maybe 20 minutes away from my house, and that's kind of based on a drive there. And I had no idea where I was. I was panicked. I was so scared. I just remember I was in tears. It's actually right then in that moment where I first realized that I now have a stutter. As you can tell, it still exists. I've had it now for as long as I can remember. And I've tried everything in the world to try to actually be rid of it. I've gone to all kinds of things with, speech therapies happened. I've gone to, I've even tried, what if I slow my speech down incredibly, like I'm singing and all these kinds of things. I've even tried at times to really make sure that when I have a conversation with someone that I'm looking them in the eye, because that seems to help. And even though I've done a lot of different therapies over the years, even though I've tried so many things, and those things have helped at times, it hasn't really addressed at the core of my heart, which is the real problem, and that is shame. I feel a lot of shame about myself. I felt all my life that if I get into any kind of in a moment where I have to pause and I have to be almost kind of like the one who talks even right now, I just want to run from that. I want to hide away. I want to just go do my own thing. And in fact, when I think back even to the very start of the Bible in the book of Genesis, I read of actually two other people who wanted just to simply run away from their shame and hide from their heartache. In fact, we see that right there, though, too, and I think probably Genesis chapter 2, we see a moment there of Adam and Eve where they actually grab this amazing fruit from the tree that's actually supposed to be really good, apparently, in their mind, but they're not supposed to have any of it. But they grab it anyway and they eat it. And immediately they feel shame. They want to run from God. Actually, they realize in the moment that they're naked. And they say, oh my goodness, we have to do something about our shame. We have to make sure that though we don't have to, they'll feel this way. And so they run and they get a bunch of leaves and they put them on themselves. And in that moment, they just felt like they wanted to run. They wanted to hide. And I don't know about you, but though I feel that would be so true for me about my shame, about the things that I look at my life and I think, I want that to be gone. I don't want that to exist anymore. And so we run from those things. Maybe you run, like online. Maybe it's, what you do though with friends. Maybe it's Netflix. Maybe you simply run from people and you simply run to your room. But either way, we all realize at the core of ourselves we have a lot of pain and we have a lot of heartache and we have a lot of shame, and this is our problem and we just want to run from it. But where do we go when we want to run from our shame? Where can we find the true, where can we find what's really going to make that better? Where can we find where we're going to be fixed, where we're going to be whole? Where do we find the answers to our pain and to our heartache and to our shame? So in the book of Mark, chapter 5, actually, though we see a moment there with Jesus that I think is really important to what we're talking about as to how we deal with shame, how we deal with heartache. In the midst of what we read there, we actually read of a moment with a woman. She's had a problem for 12 years. She's had this terrible medical condition now for 12 years. She's gone to all the doctors. She's seen everybody, and yet nothing helps. She's in this place where she's like, I don't know what to do, but I've heard of this guy named Jesus. And I heard he can do things that no one else can do. So what if he is the answer to what I'm experiencing? What if he's the one who's going to make it all better? What if he is the answer to the problem that I'm having? What if, though, for her, what if the answer now is this man? What if when she looks at a man like him and she sees Jesus and she says, what if he's the answer to what's going on in my heart, to what I really need to finally feel whole? And so now she has to take a step that's really bold. And so in fact, what she sees is Jesus walking in the crowd. And so she says, if I can just touch even the bottom of his robe, the bottom of his cloak, then I know I'll be healed. I know I'll be made well, and what I'm experiencing in my body will be no more. And so she has to make her way through the midst of this crowd. And so when she finally gets there, she just kind of barely reaches her hand out, and immediately she grabs his cloak and she's healed in that moment. And yet, though, for Jesus, he pauses because he knows something has absolutely totally shifted in him. And he pauses and he says, somebody touch me. And yet everyone is around him, right? So everyone already has their hands on Jesus. Of course you're being touched, buddy. Like, it's just what's happening to you right now. He says, no. Though this is different. And he looks and he sees this woman who has been afraid to be in public now for almost probably 12 years. She is so ashamed of who she is. She is so sad as to exactly who she is. She doesn't want to be seen by anybody. And yet, though, in this moment we look at Jesus and he looks at her and he totally points her out in the crowd. And he totally restores her, and he makes her feel whole in that moment. And he says, woman, why don't you just tell me your story? And she shares everything in front of this crowd. And so now no longer is she feeling shame. She's not feeling the same thing she once felt. She doesn't have to go back to the doctor. She doesn't have to go back to all the things that in the moment for her, that she thinks is going to make her well. Instead, she just sees in front of her what she's been longing for her whole life, what she's always needed, and that is Jesus. He is what she's needed. He is the fix. He is what her heart has longed for. And it looks like in this life we all have all kinds of hurt. We all have all kinds of pain. I know that's true for me, and I know that's true for you. In fact, I know for sure that there are many of you who are watching who have experienced things that you would never wish on anybody to happen ever again. You know, for some of you, you've been really sick. In fact, for others, you've watched your homes just totally fall apart. You know, and I also know too, for some of you, you go to school every day wishing you could just be at home because though you don't feel like you have any friends, you don't feel like you fit in. And so as a result of that, though we just try to run from that pain, we try to hide from it. And so we run to Netflix, we run to Instagram, run to Facebook, run to Snapchat, run to friends hoping that maybe they can give us what we need. We're trying to solve our problems. We run to things like drugs and alcohol and sex and pornography. We run to these things thinking that's going to make me whole. But it's not. It's not the answer to the problem. The answer to the problem is found only in God. It's found in Jesus and who He is and what He's done for you. He wants to take away that shame that you feel. He wants to take away that pain, wants to take away that heartache. And He wants to give you joy. He wants to give you love. He wants to give you so much more than you could ever possibly imagine. You know, I'm reminded in this moment of another moment in the Bible. It comes in John chapter 4, and it's this really great moment at the end where we see this poor woman at the well. She's been married 5 times. And she has an encounter with Jesus that's so incredible. In that moment when she sees Him, she starts to share her life with Him, but He already knows it. And so after she has this encounter with him, she walks away from that moment at the well, and she goes back to her village, and she says to everyone there, come and meet the man who knows everything about me. And so guys, I don't know where you're at today. I don't know exactly where your heart is today, but my encouragement to you as we move into our time of questions, as we move into a time of where we can pause and really ask Jesus what he thinks, here's what I want you to do today at the end. Just to spend time with Jesus, just to simply ask him what he knows about you, to say, Jesus, though, would you just please, though, I mean, in my heart, would you start to show me, though, like where my pain is? And in that moment too, I know that he actually wants to have a moment with you today where he simply says, I want to heal that pain. I want to make you whole again. I want to fix you 100%. And so here is what I invite you, here's what I invite though too for all of us to do as we move into this series. Come and meet the man Jesus who knows everything about you.